So many people tell me now, even my family, why do you go on working? It's ridiculous. Stop, stop. My answer is simple. God has given us life. As long as we can serve people, because there are so many miserable people, they need our work, they need salary. We have to give back the fact that we are still alive. Until the end, I will go on working.
Sit back and grab a glass. It's Wine Talks with Paul Kay.
Bonjour, Paul. It's good to see you again.
It is my absolute pleasure and honor to have you here today, and thank you for taking the time. I guess it's, 6 o'clock? And we're in France today?
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
And I saw, Arthur, that you were back.
Was it the last time? When was it the last time we met? It was in Pichon.
It was in Pichon. Wow. In 1993.
Okay. And you Romanian, but I also Romanian. What do you think?
Well, yes, you look. That would be my first guess. Would be yes, you are. We were with Henry van der Voort. Henri.
You know, he was like a brother to me. We were very, very close. We grew up together.
He was such a noble man.
That's the exact word. Noble, great in his intelligence, great in his heart, a treasure, a real treasure. So you knew him well.
We did. We did a lot of business together, and when he hosted us at Château Belgrave, we came across to your chateau, and it didn't hit me until I read the book Wine and War that you and I had dinner together. It was like a revelation for me, like, oh my goodness, we sat and broke bread. I was just a young man who didn't understand wine or anything, so... But Henri taught me a very noble lesson in business.
This book, Wine and War, that has been highly known through the world for so many years. We will talk about it later when we come to the German time.
Okay, great.
But now we will start from the beginning.
That'd be great.
Wine and War happens in 1944, 42, 43, 44. And now we're going to go back from the beginning. When I was born in 1925, just before the big financial crisis, because what we must know, we talk about that later, it is the financial dimension of the world of wine, with the financial crisis.
With wine?
Well, in general. We speak about the economy of winemaking later.
Okay.
But as I say, I was born at that time in the 20s, just after, you remember that 1928 was a superb vintage. And it was also the time where business went very well. It's all the time of Art Deco, Art Nouveau. And then all of a sudden, the financial crisis of 1929 came. You remember this financial crisis?
In France as well.
So that's the time where I was born, at the time where everything went so well, the 25, 26, 27, 28, then all of a sudden, the drama happened in 29. And from that time, the world of wine went through a very difficult time because the vintages in 1930 were due to bad condition of weather between 30 and 35 and 38. All our wines were scored between 0 and 5 on 20. I write it in my book. I made a study. During 15 years, the wine was a catastrophe. So you see, after the great time of the 2728, was the top of the fashionable wines, there was 15 years of cries. Then the war happened in 1940. Mm-hmm. And there again, the wines were a catastrophe in 40, 41, 42, 50. If you want to see the scores, I can give you the scores. But they were mentioned 0 out of 20, or 2 out of 20, 3 out of 20. How can you expect to sell the wine when you have 0.3 out of 20? So, all the Bordeaux wines and vineyards and châteaux couldn't sell. And then the war broke out. Mm-hmm. And that was my childhood. That's why I'm coming back to my childhood. I was educated at that time of this big financial crisis where everybody was so poor. The owners of chateaux, we had lots of chateaux. We will talk about that later. But all my family has always been involved in winemaking. We go back, our family, the May family, I belong to the May family. We saved in our archives since 1800, we were in the wine business as courtier first, as owner after. But what is funny is that we were only in the Médoc. We never went to Pomerol. We never went to Saint-Emilion. We never went to the Graves. We never went to Sauternes. We remained, well, as we say in French, Médocain, pure Médocain. But we were everywhere in the Médoc. We were in Margaux. Mm-hmm. We were with Château Siron, Château d'Ozac. We were in Palmer, so Cru Bourgeois and Grand Cru Classé. Then we were talking with my grandson after a while ago of Marquis de Terme. We were owner of Marquis de Terme in Margaux also. Mm-hmm. Then Du Cru Beaucaillou, my grandparents in Saint-Julien. My grandparents.
Ancien Cru Classé, no?
Then my parents in Pichon, where I grew up. And then we go on with Citron, Château Citron, Cru Bourgeois. And then Couffran and Verdignon, my uncle in Saint-Seurin-Quédourne, still in the family. So you see, we cover, if you take the road from Bordeaux to the Bas-Médoc, we were situated all along the road, meaning that we had different soils, because of course, there are different appellations, and we show the different soils, more gravel, less gravel. But we had the experience, and we could run all those chateaux together. And I grew up. That's the way I grew up. So I say that again. I grew up all along the road of the D2, and during all the difficult time up to 1945. So my education was all on wine too. Of course, we were many children, brothers, sisters, nephews, with cousins, but not all of them were interested in wine. In my family, my sister was not interested in wine, my brother either. I was the only little girl who was running through the vineyard day and night. I was always picking the grapes at vintage time. I was milking the cows in the morning. I was everywhere because I loved it. It was a pleasure. And that is why now again, I created this vineyard in South Africa. We'll talk about it later. Mm-hmm. But it's linked to this interest about what we'll talk about it again, the mystery of winemaking. This link that we have with the soil, in which means that we are in the hands of God, because God sends the weather. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be horrible, and all depends when the weather goes, because we are very fragile in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall. So it makes our life terribly interesting, never secure, in total risk, a challenge, a real challenge. And to win that challenge is not making good wines, but making great wines. Everybody can make good wine. I mean, if you are not totally stupid, you should be able to make good wines. But if you want to get the more complex wine, the more elegant wine, all this mystery that hides in a grape and in winemaking, because there are two parts in a wine. The part considered through the soil and what happened in the vineyard, how you take care of your vineyard. And then after, it is what happens in the cellars. And that is the big mystery of winemaking. And we will talk about that again. When I took over Pichon, one of your questions was, why did you go back to university? Mm-hmm. Well, if I am the boss of Pichon, I cannot pretend to run a vineyard like Pichon if I know less than the people I work with. Mm-hmm. So if you have to know as much as the people in the vineyard, you got to go back to agriculture. If you want to know how to, vinifier, to make your wine in the cellar, you have to know what's going on chemically, all the secrets, as I was telling you, not to do a good one, but to make a great wine, mm-hmm. and to be better than everybody else. And it's all about the proper choices at the proper time. It's understanding the soil, understanding the wine, understanding the grape. It makes it a wonderful deal. That's why I'm still busy making wine. Mm-hmm. And I still have to learn more. And you know how old I am now.
Well, I don't ask that question, so.
I have nothing to hide or they're proud, because if I'm so old and still in rather good health, because I've been starting drinking wine, I should not say that because mm-hmm. it's not considered like...
It's okay on this show.
Don't say it to anyone. I started drinking wine, I was 4. So wow. Don't say that wine is bad for the health.
No.
Because look at me, I'm going to be 99 years old.
Wow.
It's an old age. And I started drinking wine when we go back to my childhood. When I was 4, of course, not pure wine. It was wine in water, mm-hmm. wine with fruit. I don't know if when you were in the Medoc, you were given to eat pêche au vin, peach in wine.
Yes, I believe we did.
Remember?
I did believe that. Yes. Wow.
You had sugar and wine. I started at 4 because my grandfather said that makes people strong.
Yeah, well, it worked.
Today you should make pêche au vin. Okay. But it really shows that wine is very good for the health. Of course, reasonably. So that's what very interesting is to think that wine exists since centuries. It is in the center of the Bible. It is in the center of all the religion in Egypt, If you go to Egypt, you see all the graves painted on the tombs. Wine started in the Middle East.
They're saying that Georgia, Armenia, parts of the Caucasus. They're saying it in Georgia. They just did a whole show in Georgia that it was the beginning of wine. The country.
Georgia. And we know that, yeah, of course.
Yeah, Armenia. Yeah.
Yeah. So I consider wine, we are working in wine, you and I, is the most beautiful job you can ever have for a lifetime. Because it goes back to the Bible, to the start of mankind. It's still there. It brings people together, and that's the great thing about wine. Look, it brings us together today, you and I, after so many years. And it brings so many people together. It brings us close to God, as we were saying about the Bible. It brings us close to the soil. And one thing I would like to point out, and I think is very important, vineyards come from poor soil. And what is beautiful is to think that poorer the soil is, greater the wine is. And that is a mystery. From poor things, you can do mysterious things like wine. And wine, also, I wanted to point out, is interesting because if it's well done, it must be great when young. Wine must be well balanced young, well balanced in aging, and well balanced when it's very, very old. Still, when you pull out the cork of an old wine, of course, it's very different from a young wine, but it still has all this mysterious gift to it. So, we are very, very lucky people. So now, going back to my childhood, I grew up in these places until the war broke out, and that was your question. What happened during the war? Of course, we were occupied by the German army. I was 15 years old when the war broke out, or 15. The Germans were there in a few days' time. They crossed all the country of France. All our men were gone. They were at war. So we had no men to help us. It was only wives, women, and children, and old people. We were in Siro. We were all around my grandparents, surrounded with all our cousin refugees, because they all had come to Bordeaux, left the north, left Paris, left the north of France, left the east of France, Alsace and Lorraine. We had cousins from Verdun. I must say, we never laughed as much because we were a bunch of children. We knew that war was serious and a drama. But if you put lots of children together, with all our grandparents, we listened to their stories, and they were allowing us to laugh and have fun with them. It was a jolly time with all those kids. But of course, we were working a lot, working in the fields, working at our studies. We couldn't go to school anymore. So my grandfather was teaching us French and Latin and philosophy. My mother taught us English, Spanish. A friend, Colonel, taught us German, history, geography. And we were having school, all of us having class all the time. But in the same time, we worked in the vegetable garden because we had to eat. The big problem was to eat. There was no food. So the food was very poor, of course. And that brings me to the arrival of the Germans in Margaux, their occupation of Château Palmer. And in Château Palmer, we were hiding 2 Jewish families with their 3 children. What could we do with those Jewish friends? They were coming from Trieste. Mr. What's his name? I'll tell you later. Was a négociant in Trieste. And when he saw that the things were getting dangerous for the Jews in Italy, he came to us, said to my father, Edward, things are getting dangerous for Jewish people in Italy. Can we come and stay with you until things get better? I said, of course. No one is staying in Palmer. You're welcome. So we put them up in Palmer, the 2 families, the kids. And he was a great violinist. He was first violinist of the orchestra of Trieste. So before the German came, every day we were playing piano and violin in Siron with my grandparents. Until the Germans were there in 2 days' time. So we put up a wall between the kitchen of Palmer and another building. We walled them in and said to the children, no noise. The Germans are going to be there, the other side of the wall. And I was supposed to bring them food every day. The sentinel, I don't know how you say that in English, the sentinel was hitting me. And he didn't know that I was bringing food for the Jews. But it's all written in the book of Wine and War.
That's amazing. Amazing. But
and this went on for 3 months. We hid it 3 months. And then when we had made all the false paper, my father was helping the resistance, and he was a specialist of false paper. And when all the papers were done, Daddy, my father, and my uncle Louis took them to Bayonne, the port, and they left for Argentina, and we saved them. But every day, through a small hole in the wall, I was bringing them their food. I was 15 at the time. So, if the Germans were there, as I told you, the men were at war. There was only the old ones left. The Germans took away all our horses. No horses to plow. We used cows. 2 cows. They had a bad time because you had to milk them in the morning. They had to work in the field all day and milk them again at night. So, when we say that we gave the Legion of Honor to people, we should have given Legion of Honor to all the cows.
That's cute.
So, no food. We were working in the fields to put food in. No horses. No product to take care. No bottles for the wine. Very difficult to buy bottles during the war. And the bottles I have of that time are not dark. They're white, transparent. That we were not able to find dark ones. So, we spoke about the war.
At Pichon, there's a quote in the book about the 250 soldiers coming into Pichon, and that you hid the wine in the kitchen.
Pichon, the house was totally devastated by the German troops.
Wow.
Pichon was devastated.
And you hid the wine. You hid the wine behind the wall in the kitchen or behind the armoire, it says.
That was in Palmer.
Palmer.
That was in Palmer.
It sounded like the German lieutenant or captain was a cordial man that he didn't want to touch or drink through your wine cellar. I read that in the book. So you were 15 then, and
no, I passed my baccalaureate degree during the bombing. All the nights of full moon. With the full moon, you can see everything. So my father was saying, "We have full moon. We are going to be bombed. Prepare your candle. Prepare your books. Prepare your nightgown, because we are going to be bombed." So, of course, we could hear the alarm at 11 at night. We go down to the cellar where all our beautiful old bottles were. And we waited until the morning to get out and preparing our exams in that condition of life. Yeah. I passed my baccalaureate degree in 1943. Yeah.
Wow.
During the bombing. Okay.
Right, yeah, right in the middle.
So then, after the war, I got married with an army man. And this army man had landed in Utah Beach and wounded in Utah Beach. He was in the French army, what you call it, the French resistance army, with General Leclerc de Clock, and it was the 2nd Armored Division, and they had joined the Patton Division in England. So he landed with the Patton Division in Utah Beach.
Wow.
In August. He was wounded and then, delivered France, Alsace-Lorraine, went to Vietnam immediately after France was free. He went off to Vietnam from 1945 to 1947. He was wounded in Alsace, 2nd time, wounded in Hanoi, in Vietnam, in 47. Then I met him, we got married, and life took us, as you know, twice to the United States. First time it was in 1951, during the Korean War. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
The Korean War in 1951.
And you were in Kansas.
We were in Kansas, in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and he was studying at the Command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth. So, as you know, there is a big prison in Leavenworth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so everybody laughed when they said we were going to be stationed in Leavenworth.
Yeah.
They said, "You're going to the prison?" I said, "No, the army school."
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. It was great. We were quite young at the time. We had 2 babies. We took our 2 babies with us. And at that time, I decided, because I was very impressed by the American army, and to know your country better and understand how your country was so strong, I thought I'm not going to discover the qualities of the American by just going to the cocktail party at the mess on the Friday night. So I must join the army life. So what I did, I signed up to be a nurse, an army nurse. I passed my exam. They took me in very kindly, and I joined the army hospital. And I'm very proud of that. I have pictures in my uniform as nurse, army nurse, yeah.
Amazing.
So I learned how you were organized, how you faced happiness, how you face sufferance, when you how you prepare the sick people for surgery. The way the American so well organized. I loved my time this time in Kansas. So that was 1951.
2 times.
51. And then we went back to Kansas in 68. My husband was assigned on the staff. The Americans are so great that they opened the school, they opened the staff school to foreigners. There was 1 French, 1 Japanese, 1 German, 1 English. 4 officers were foreigners, and they were treated like American officers. They were allowed to all the secrets. There were just a few secrets that the foreigners were not supposed to know. But away from that, we were considered like American. The American spirit is so open, so confident in their allied troops. Yeah. So we spent again 2 years there. And my husband was also a pilot. He was given his personal plane. He could use his plane. There were horses on the post. He had his own horse. We were beautifully treated. By that time, the second time, we had 4 children. So that was quite difficult because the kids had to do their American education in American school, but also their French education when they came home. So the kids had a lot of work, but they loved it. Have you been to Kansas sometime?
Only Kansas City to sell computers a long time ago, 1982 or something like that.
You've got to go to the Army Post.
I'd like to do that now.
You have beautiful trees. Unfortunately, I went back later and they had cut down most of the trees.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's probably a reason for that, So then that's about the Army. And that takes us back to further on my life, when in 1978, I took over. My husband retired as general in 1971.
Wow, he got the general. That's amazing.
Yeah, and in 1978, I was asked by my family to take over Hisham. So that's the time when I had to go back to university to study a lot, because what I had learned as a kid had nothing to do with the scientific way things were going on in 1978. My professor was Pascal Ribeiro-Gallon. He's one of the very great scientific about wine. So I followed his courses, and he became the consultant of Pichon.
Wow.
So there, the first thing I had to do is to invest, because things were poor at that time in Pichon. It was the time when everybody was starting to invest a lot in vineyards. And now the investment you can see in the cellars, in all the machinery is tremendous.
That was unusual for a woman to run a winery, I would suspect, in 1973.
I was the only one, because at that time, in Mouton Rothschild, you had only Philippe. It was Philippe who was running Mouton. It was not comment s'appelle-t-elle? Huh?
Philippine?
It was not Philippine yet. By the way, you know that Mouton Rothschild showed their new bottle, your new label yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
And you saw how it is? They say it's a big flower. There was a big ceremony. My friends were at that ceremony 2 days ago, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Philippine was not there. So I was with Philip. And Corinne Menzelopoulos was not there yet. It was her father. I was the only woman in all of the Medoc.
Wow.
They were laughing at me, saying a woman cannot be successful in winemaking. That was not very kind.
No.
So I decided that I would show them that they were totally mistaken on that point. And the curious thing was that as I was new in the Medoc, new again, often I wanted to hear about what was going on in the vineyard, and I was wanting to know what they thought about it. And I was asking a question, hoping they would give me, comment dire, un conseil? An advice. And curiously, believe it or not, Paul, if I asked the question to 4 gentlemen. The 4 answers were so different. I was saying, they're all lying to me. Now I must guess who is lying the most and who is lying the least.
That's hard work.
But, women, they try to understand what's going on. So I knew they were lying anyway.
So, well, it's the first paragraph of your book. And since my French is a little slow, but your preface says that the industry was dominated by men forever, and you go back to Jesus who turned water to wine and blood. And so it must have been very important to you that you understood in your book, that people understood that wine and women, actually that should be a new book, Wine and Women, was a difficult situation back then. It still is. It's still a very popular conversation to have.
But nowadays, I think women are everywhere. Now they're really equal. They're not left at home all the time. All the girls have a job. Now we're used to it.
So you started running the winery. You took over the reins, made the investment. Worked on the quality. As I told you, I didn't want to do a good wine. I wanted to do a great wine. So that was the secret of my life. It was to try and understand the mystery in the fields. I was all the time in the vineyards, seeing how it was screwed. Well, one thing I didn't tell you is, but you know that well, the great things of the Medoc is that we make wine by blending the wine. The difference with Burgundy, of course, and the blending is another mystery. How much are you going to put of Merlot in proportion to the Cabernet Sauvignon, to the Cabernet Franc? And one of our secrets in Pichon was our 8% of Petit Verdot. We are the only one in the Medoc. It was really, all my family, the May family, was successful because they were lovers of Petit Verdot and they knew how to handle Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot is a naughty little grape. It's a very tiny little grape, difficult to grow, difficult to mature. And if you don't do it well,
it's bad. And so many people give it up because it was bad. But it was only they did not have the know-how. Our Petit Verdot was not bad, it was good. It was even very, very good. 8% was enormous. Then major wine, c'est quelque chose?
The 1970s were difficult for Bordeaux, were they not? Vintages, economy, world acceptance.
Yeah. We had a lovely 70. We did a very, very lovely 71. 71 was a difficult, very difficult vintage to succeed. We made a very tiny quantity. But if you come ahead of 71, you will see it's very elegant. It's a charming vintage. So 72, 73, 75, forget them. Then came the 75, was great, but so many people missed their 75 in Medoc because they overpowered their tannins. They wanted to extract. It was so good, lovely grapes, so they extract too much tannin. And it was a deceiving vintage in AG. 76 was lovely, very elegant, small quantity. 77, forget it. Then I came with 78, a very difficult vintage, but we did the best 78 of all the Medoc. It was considered like even better than the first gross, 78. Then 79 was easy vintage. We did a great quantity, enormous quantity. We did not have enough vats, had to rent vats. We didn't have enough vats. It was my second year in Pichon. I'm not invested yet. So we are lacking, and I had to put my vats outside next to the vineyard of Château Latour. I asked permission to Latour to put my vats in their comment on dit, chemin?
On the road?
And their road. So the vats were in the Latour's road. Okay. So we made a 79, and that was the start of Pichon. Yeah. Then 80, we were very lovely. 82. So I was wondering if you knew this book I wrote about the 82 vintage. I have it here.
I don't know the book.
Look. Can you see it?
Yes. And it's just about the 1982 vintage?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Monsieur Lencquesaing, you're going to have to send me a copy. I'll have to find one on eBay somewhere. Magic
wine. It's called Magic Wine. So it's lovely because it's a story of, it's a book.
Beautiful.
It's very like the Petit Prince of Saint-Exupéry.
C'est en français, je suppose.
No, en anglais.
Oh, wow. Then I can read it. At least quickly. You
want me to send you one?
I would love to have a copy of that, but it's not necessary. I'm sure I can find one. I do have this copy.
Yeah, that's the new book.
Because of Madame Povedna.
You know who has made the cover of the book?
I think your grandson did this.
And his grandson's name is Arthur.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Did you see the 4 grapes on the top of the vine?
I do.
Those are the 4 children.
Oh, very cute. Let me see if I can put this up here.
There you are, yeah? You have 4 grapes.
Yeah, he's great.
Work.
It's very pretty.
Yeah. I love it.
I'm looking forward to finishing it, though my reading French is difficult for me. But
it is totally translated into English. It's done. Now I must go to South Africa to have it printed.
I don't want to read it in English. I want to read it in French. It's like a textbook for me. It helps me. It helps me learn my French. My father spoke French, and so I set out to learn French. So you you wrote in a book, or there was a quote in one of the books of your history, and when the estate had to be broken up amongst your siblings,
Yeah.
and different people got different things, and that's always a difficult thing to do in a family. But you ended up selling Pichon. You change of life, change of ideas. What was behind all that?
What is the question?
When you sold Pichon, what did you do?
Well, I had hope that my children would take over. But when I took over myself, it was late in my life, and already late in my children's life. They all had studied other subjects, and none of them had studied viticulture. None of them had studied enology. They were all living in Paris, and they were not interested in vineyards, not at all. So I thought they might change their mind. I asked them to come to work with me and try, and they did, the four of them, but they all decided they wanted to go back to Paris. So some of them had said, well, give us Pichon, and we will manage Pichon from Paris. I said, no, that doesn't work. If you are close to your, if you are a real, how you say, viticulteur, you have to live with your vineyard, with, not out. You don't understand what's going on when you are in Paris. You have to see the weather every day.
I like that.
That I decided I can't carry on, and I don't want that after my death they discuss financial reasons about running Pichon badly. Better give it up.
Wow.
I made a choice. But by that time, remember when I was in Pichon, I had invested in a cru bourgeois called Château Bernadotte. Because I wanted, what I like in wine is not to make one great wine like Pichon, classified gross. What I like is to deal with all kinds of wines, cru bourgeois, simple wines, all the different kind of wines, not only the classified gold. So I had added to Pichon Bernadotte. Was a very big success. It was a lovely, lovely property. But there again, I sold it at the same time as Pichon. But I also, when I was in Pichon, had bought our vineyard in Glenelly. It's Pichon who bought Glenelly. That it was only for the reason that I wanted to have a foreign vineyard. I had tried to invest in the United States. I tried to invest near New York, in Long Island.
Really?
Yeah. I started making vintages in Long Island with a friend of mine called the Hargrave. But I understood that there was no aging possible in this kind of soil because the grapes, the roots go to the water. The water level is very close, and the vines die when you cannot age the vineyard there. So I went to another place. I started making wine at Château Saint-Michel in Seattle.
Really? In Washington?
Yeah, in Washington State. I worked 4 years at making our blends. But we were close to sign the agreement with Château Saint-Michel. The wine was made, everything was made. But you know perhaps that Château Saint-Michel belongs to the tobacco company.
Yes.
It's a big tobacco company.
That's a big thing, yes.
And they wanted to put in the deal that I was obliged in the deal with them to do so many bottles a year. And I said, I cannot sign that. Making wine is not making a car in a factory.
Mm-hmm.
It's dealing with the weather condition, and if the wine are not good, I cannot bottle every year the same number of bottles. So the deal broke.
Wow. It's a big place. That's what they're all about, marketing, not, the wine is a secondary to that. So at the same time you were in South Africa as well, or that was after Saint Michel?
So I went to South Africa because I broke the deal with châteaux.
And how?
My heart was broken when I gave up the deal with Saint Michel. I love their mentality. I love the work. We worked 4 years together making our wine. Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened.
They were delightful people.
And so Glen Alley is that much different than America? South Africa is so different. I just found it fascinating. You ended up in South Africa as a place.
I ended because for 3 reasons. First reason, the quality of the soil. As you know, perhaps, at that time, I was president of the International Wine and
I read that.
Yes. A spirit competition.
Yes.
And every year, after blind tastings, we were delivering trophy. And many times, the trophy of the best blended wine, because I had created a trophy for blended wines. It had to be at least 3 different kinds of grapes. And many times, this trophy was won by South African people. So they were given a beautiful trophy, a piece of art, and an invitation to come in Pichon at vintage time so that we could exchange our knowledge, they and us. So I started having lots of South African friends who invited me to South Africa to see their vineyard, and I invited them to Pichon for them to see how we worked. So I knew South African wines very well when they made this decision. That's my answer number 1. Number 2 was I had read a book that you have perhaps read. If you have not read it, you should buy it. You can still find it. It's written in 1822 by the name of I'm getting tired.
It's already been an hour, so yeah.
Topology, no. Yeah, I'm trying to find a word. Topology of the best soils in the world. It's a study of the best terroir in all the world. Wow. It's written by a man by the name of André Julien. And Julien with 2 L's.
Julien.
Jullien. André Julien. 1822. Well, his first copy was in 1818. But he has many editions. You can still find it.
Yeah, I'm going to look for it. Interesting.
And he makes a study of the best. And at that time, he made a classification of the terroir of South African in parallel of the terroir of the Médoc. Imagine. And the terroir of Glenelly, and the terroir of Glenelly is stated as great as all the second growths of Bordeaux.
They're gorgeous wines.
Yeah.
We had Leah.
Second reason, the terroir. Then there's another reason. It's 4 reasons. Third reason, it is in honor of the Huguenots. You know the story of South Africa. The Dutch were having a colony in South Africa, and they wanted to make wine for the boats who were heading to the Far East. And they needed people who knew how to make wine. At that time, the French Protestant people were kicked out of France because of their religion, and they went to South Africa, and they are the ones who started the vineyards in South Africa, the French Huguenots.
I read that somewhere. I'm glad you reminded me.
You must read that. Their story is magnificent. So I thought, well, it's nice for me to go back to those French people who started the vineyard there. It's a lovely story. And then the fourth point was my friend, Dr. Anton Rutherford. He is this very rich South African man that is at the head of, comment t'appelles?
Richmond.
The Richmond Company. Richmond Company. And he told me he was a friend of Mandela.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, May, you must come to South Africa to help the economy of this country to pull up after what happened, and help the wines to be great, give salaries to people. So I said, no, I'm too old. I was 75 by that time. I said, I'm not at this old age going to start a vineyard, planting vine at 70 years old.
Wow.
Crazy. I'm not that crazy. So I said, no. And then finally it took me in, and I did it.
C'est fou, huh?
C'est fou. So we created a school, we created a restaurant, I created a museum of glasses for the economy to work. It's no use speaking. You got to work.
Yeah.
There we are.
You know, this is
when are you going to come and visit us?
Well, it certainly is part of my next group of wine travels. Next year, we're going to Monaco for the Grand Prix. We're going to swing through Bordeaux. All my friends want to see Bordeaux. I just tasted the latest vintage of Pichon at the wine tasting last 2 weeks ago in Beverly Hills. So we have a lot of work to do, and I would love to see Glenelly. I had a wonderful conversation with Leah Povetta in the office.
So you know, it's in the hands of Nicholas, my other grandson.
Well, because the other one went to Spain, so you can't use him. He's doing stuff in Rioja. So
the one in Spain is Arthur.
Yes, exactly. I would love to visit. I would love to see you on property there. I'm
leaving on February 12th. I'm leaving for the vintage, for the coming vintage 24.
Back to South Africa.
Why don't you come and see us?
I think that we're going to figure that out. I would love to do that. That'd be really special.
Don't wait too long, because I will not be there anymore.
No, I'm not going to wait. I don't wait. That's not my style. I said, I don't wait. That's not my style.
I don't wait.
I don't wait.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I know you're tired, and I want to wrap this up, but I wanted to tell a story about Henry. He was trying to sell me some wine, Li Puyi. I don't know if you remember that. It was his Chinese restaurant wine that he had made at Burkut. And I was a young kid. I did business. And he finally called my father. And in French, he says, your son won't return my calls. And he taught me the lesson that in business, the courtesy of a return, the courtesy of a return call is so important in business. And I learned that lesson in I don't know, it was probably around when I met you in 1993, at that time frame. He was a great man. I didn't know either that he was part of the resistance. Was he part of the French army? I think he was in the American army as well.
He was in the American army. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. He became an American, yeah.
So I want to thank you for this time. It's been enchanting, charming. It's been an honor. And you will see us in South Africa at Glen Elly.
Thank you. And when I used to go a lot to the United States, it was the market I liked the best when I was running Pichon. I was all the time in the United States.
No plans in the near future, I suppose.
Now I don't travel anymore. Only the easiest way from home to home, from Switzerland to Glen Elly. But I don't even go to Paris anymore, no, not to London. But you can, if I can't travel, you can travel.
I'm going to. So we fly into Stellenbosch, or where do we fly to?
To Cape Town.
Cape Town, okay. I'm going to make that arrangement, and I will communicate with Arthur as well on this. But it's been such an honor. It's been such an honor to hear your story.
Well, it was very kind of you but did you want to ask me some questions that I didn't think of?
No, I think you studied my list here, and that's perfectly fine. I think an hour is enough time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason I come to South Africa, and we sit down and do it again.
Whatever.
I think that'd be.
Well, we don't do it again. You come.
I'm going to come, and we're going to do it live.
It is a beautiful country. I told you that the soil was lovely, but the climate is lovely, and the people are charming, so well educated, so nice.
It seems like a natural progression for you, given the reasons that you went there, and the request from such an important person to be there, that you're able to do that. And at 75, I mean, that's...
But the best time for you to come is between January and April, because it can get very, very hot later on.
Do you think that this ambition you have, I do have a question, because you said something very important in the beginning, and I wrote it down, because I try to define this link between humanity and wine, and I think you made the link, which is God, because you could study all you want. You might even study the molecular transfer of nutrients at the taproot level. It's not going to give you the answer as to why it would bring us together 30 years later. And I think that's a really important feature. And I think that's also the reason why in 1970, at 75 years old, you couldn't walk away from it. You had to continue to do something in our industry. I'll never retire. I love doing what I'm doing now, but I stopped selling wine on a daily basis. But I can't leave. It's in your soul.
Well, what so many people tell me now, even my family, why do you go on working? It's ridiculous. Stop. But my answer is simple. God has given us life. As long as we can serve people, because there are so many miserable people, they need our work, they need salary. Mm-hmm. So we have to give back the fact that we are still alive. So until the end, I will go on working to make people happy, to give them salaries, because what is important is to create every day. Create work, money, pleasure, by making good wines again, create. And you're not supposed to stop if you still can go on.
So
I have to stop, I'll stop.
That is so humbling, because I fight on this podcast. I fight corporate America and all the wines that are on the shelves that don't have this history, that don't tell this story. You're telling the story. Wine is a humble product.
Yeah.
And it's meant for pleasure, and it's meant for family. It's meant to gather, and it's meant to discuss and think. And I fight.
It comes from poor soil. It comes from poor soil.
It comes from poor soil. What an amazing concept that is.
To make us happy.
Yes, to make us happy. C'est fou. I hope that I can be as articulate as you are as I continue doing this work to share these stories and to share the concept of wine as not an alcoholic beverage, but as a binding agent for humanity.
If you look at the world today, with all the wars, all the violence, it's all because people have forgotten that God exists. If they remember that God exists and that you must make everybody happy, there will be no wars. It's just
you're right.
They have forgotten the principle.
It's a pretty simple solution, really.
Yeah.
But humanity.
We have to go back to those simple knowledge.
And wine is it.
And drink wine, and drink wine.
Well, we look forward to visiting, and I look forward to feeling. I want to feel the Glenelly wines on property. That's really what it's about. The understanding the spirit of the wine for coming from you and the people that work there, and the salaries you've created, and the family you've created down there. Which is, I mean, how noble is that? Your entire family, going back to when you started the family tree. I embarrassed Arthur when we podcasted because I downloaded the family tree so I could understand, where everybody was coming from. And, you're going back to the 1800s doing the same thing, and that's keeping people together.
1780 something, yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. We could do this forever.
And unfortunately, that only Arthur directly involved, but I have two more. Maxime, that has been living in China. He also worked with us, was selling our wine in China, and
wow.
And he also worked in Delhi. And there's another little girl called Cecilia. You perhaps will hear from her.
And she's in
London. And she loves Glenelly. She follows courses, tasting wine. She has two babies, soon 3 babies. And she is passionate for Glenelly too. So, I hope that the next generation, their generation, will have more people, more kids interested. Because I would like them to study from the vineyard, to study, to be viticulturists.
I think they're going to come back. It seems to me, in all the interviews I've done, particularly from Europe, America's a little different because we're so invested in capitalism, so to speak, in the wine industry. I mean, it's very difficult, as you know. I'm here in Napa right now, actually, but they always come home. I think you're going to see that they'll come back to their roots, as you did, and no pun intended. They come back to the industry is too hard to ignore. There's too much history, and there's too much passion. There's too much heart in what you do. That they can't stay in China forever. You know that.
Well, and the world is in such bad condition that perhaps they will understand that they made wrong choices. Yeah. That's why everything goes bad. And they will come back to better choices. I
agree. Thank you again so much. It's been a long hour and a half or so. Arthur, I so appreciate your patience with me to organize this.
No, but
great pleasure, Paul.
It's wonderful, this link. We're going to keep this link between you, Arthur, and me.
I hope so.
So, now we're going to Christmas.
Do you remember?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. Was Chateau Belgrave? Was one last question? Was Henri's? Could you walk from Henri's place to Chateau Pichon?
Yes, of course.
Okay, we did that, and I mean, I didn't put this together until about 3 months ago when I read the Kladstrup book that I walked across the street.
It was around the corner.
Yes, I mean, I can't believe this. It's just amazing. You're elegant. I remember what you were wearing. You were wearing a white dress, and you were very elegant and very proper.
And you know what? If the war had not broke out, I might have got married to Henri.
Wow.
He wanted to get married to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not in the book.
No. No one knows. It was a secret between him and I.
Well, we did notice a little spark, that's for sure.
Ah, you noticed.
Yes, we did. I remember that because we were with Alain Rivière, who's with Chateau Escalon right now. And but he was a great man, and my father and him were good friends, and now we're friends, and I appreciate that.
Friendship goes on forever.
It does.
So thank you, Paul. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you and your family. Arthur, the same, and congratulations on your win the other day. I saw that posting of your martial arts there.
Thank you.
Well, one last thing, perhaps, we're speaking of family. I'm expecting my 17th great-grandchild.
Wow. Now that's congratulations.
17.
That's amazing. That's
going to be born in March. Yeah.
You congratulations. And we will see you after the holidays in South Africa.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.